Okay, audio good, phone works, excellent. And what about the video? Do you see the screen? Once again, our today's topic is easily build and manage your Hyper-V infrastructure without spending a fortune. Okay, we've got the screen up, we've got the audio up and running. Excellent. So, short housekeeping and information about our presenters. My name is Max Kalametev. I'm product manager at StarWind Software. I've been with the company for more than 9 years at this point and have a little bit more than 11 years of IT experience. I'm quite active on Spiceworks, answering questions regarding StarWind and clustered architectures. That's something I found my primary passion outside of working at StarWind and some non-IT hobbies. And our second presenter is a great guest, Simon Perryman, who previously worked for Microsoft as senior technical evangelist, and he covered all the topics you may be interested in, like Hyper-V, Windows Server, System Center. And he is owner of multiple certifications and dozens of his own patents, including, surprisingly, VMware VCP, which is not really Microsoft type of certification. He's author of books on System Center, and he's also active on Twitter as Simon Perryman. So,
thanks for the introduction. Back to you.
Thanks. And one more thing. We just started a small contest, and the idea is to reward people who have the most interesting stories about their hyper-converged storage experience. So here is what we do. You write a story about a hyper-converged storage architecture, send it to us, and we publish it in our blog. And then people vote for it. And the guy who has the most interesting and most thrilling hyper-converged story and who got the biggest number of votes gets $500. And runners-up got 300 and 150 respectively. Simon, you may want to join. $500 doesn't lie around on the road. So here is the idea. You send your articles to oksana@starwind.com before March 31st. And on April 18th, we'll have the drawing and you'll be informed if you're the lucky winner. So now back to our topic. As you've probably read on our website or heard around the web, the small, medium businesses and robos really have a problem with IT departments, where either it's a one-man shop and they simply don't have dedicated IT personnel, or it's a robo and they may have one IT guy for 10 locations, which is also not the best idea. Since for small businesses it is critical to provide best level of service, for robos, usually those are the locations where you face the customer. So even if you're a big car rental chain, all those small airport locations are your face. And if the guy in the small location says, I'm sorry, but I cannot get you the car because our system is down, that is where the negative experience starts from. No one may notice a big outage in your main data center, but if something happens on the edge where you meet the customer, that's going to have dramatic circumstances. So StarWind's idea is to take a solution and bring it to our potential customers, which are SMBs and robos. And the idea is to solve the problem of IT complexity. And our solution to IT complexity is a hyper-converged appliance, which unifies all the pieces of the puzzle together and doesn't ship you a box with jigsaw puzzle parts, but it ships you the ready puzzle, which is already glued to a cardboard, and it's already beautiful. You can use it, and you know how to use it. If something happens, there is StarWind support to support the entire structure. That is how we take out that complexity out of the game and make sure that IT is easy for any environment size. Now, we recently expanded our lineup, and previously it was just small, large, and extra large lines in StarWind lineup. Right now, we have also added the XL Ultra, which is really high-spec hardware. And the main idea remained the same. You get two servers, and two servers provide a highly available, resilient IT virtualization environment for your business. And these solutions are fit for any task. They can be scaled out, they can be scaled up. So these are just the basic building blocks. We will also send this presentation over as a PDF after the webinar, so you'll be able to review the new specifications. Now, what makes StarWind completely different from all those other hyper-converged solutions on the market? First of all, as you may have noticed, we start with two nodes, so you don't see a third node in here. It's a minimum possible scenario for a highly available infrastructure, and we don't need the third node for voting or for keeping additional stuff. You can start with two. If your environment grows, you can scale it to 3 nodes, to 4 nodes, but to start with, we don't need that big of a jump. Now, there are multiple implementations of StarWind HCA. Let's say we have a customer who has multiple nodes in their head office. They have 2 XL systems running their VDI deployment, and they have 3 L systems running their virtualization, and they are doing replication between the sites. They have actually there are only 3 branch offices drawn. Technically there are 10 of them doing replication between head office and robo locations. So that is one of the typical use cases for StarWind's hyper-converged appliance. Now, I think I mentioned but didn't go into details yet. So what makes us different? First of all, the 2-node setup, which is one of the few offerings on the market. And next thing is we can modify our appliances, and we don't prevent our customers from doing so. So if you want, there is a standard configuration you get and you purchase from StarWind, but then with any hyper-converged vendor, you want to grow your infrastructure, you need to buy an extra server. With StarWind, it's not like that. It's much easier. You want to increase the CPU horsepower, okay, put in the new CPU. We do support it. If you want more RAM or more storage, put in more drives and more DIMM sticks. We do support it. If you want to scale out, that can be easily done. You've got 2 servers upgraded to 4, 5, 6, or up to 64 servers, however you like. Then, if you want to scale up, add storage to individual servers or to all servers, and StarWind will still support that. So this is a really unique offering, and it is something which allows you to really tailor the solution you're building for your IT environment. Now, we talked about the servers, we talked about the hardware footprint of it, but let's look under the covers. What makes it possible to use just 2 servers and get a highly available server virtualization environment? The whole background synchronization, clustering is happened on the hypervisor level, where StarWind does full storage mirroring between the servers, providing a highly reliable and highly available storage resource for your virtual machines. Then there is Microsoft Hyper-V Failover cluster, providing virtual machine clustering and using that StarWind storage to have a fault-tolerant virtual machine repository. And then there is Five9, which is used as a single pane of glass management for the entire architecture. And then there is Veeam, because there are no good infrastructures without a backup. Any good infrastructure needs a backup, and that's an absolutely mandatory requirement. Even if you have one node running two virtual machines, it's always good to have your backup. Now, you may be wondering, why didn't we go with the standard approach where people buy a SAN, they buy multiple servers? So basically all that stuff you hear from vendors when you go to their website and try to quote a system or try to build a system. They say you need a huge fiber channel SAN. They say you need a blade chassis. They say you need multiple servers to do that. But here is the thing. With a traditional SAN, the I/O from the virtual machine running your mission critical applications, it first goes to the hypervisor, then it goes to the initiator, be it physical or virtual one, then it goes through the storage network, and only then it hits the cache on the storage solution, and only then it goes to disk. With StarWind, since we are hyper-converged and we omit the entire SAN layer, when the virtual machine writes data, it is traversing down to hypervisor, and then StarWind intercepts that and put it directly into server's cache, which is DRAM, the fastest memory source we have in the servers. And then from DRAM, that data travels down to disk. And we keep it synchronized and keep everything block level synchronized. And that includes the cache as well. So if one node goes down, the data will still be available on the other node in cache and on spindles and on flash, of course. So that is how we maintain everything highly available. Now, a thing peculiar to StarWind's hyper-converged appliance is a collaboration between StarWind, Veeam, and Five9 to deliver a joint solution which really stands out and allows customers to ease the management of the whole architecture. Because typical solutions like System Center may be an overkill for a small environment. They may be an overkill even for a big environment. So we decided we need an easy and good working alternative. And with Five9 and Veeam, we found that alternative. And we really have an excellent management console which allows to drive the entire cluster all the way from a single virtual machine up to virtual networking, best practices analyzing, and much more interesting features. Simon will definitely talk to that. He will passionately tell you about all the features, but I will just do a quick run through the features we have here. As I mentioned, all pieces of the puzzle are managed within Five9 Manager console, and this includes all layers starting from storage and up to the virtual machine. Now, it is also possible to manage the StarWind storage through Five9 Management Console, monitor the performance, see the cache utilization, deduplication ratios, and stuff like that. It's all available here, just on the other tab. And of course, the integration with the backup solution. So you just switch to Veeam tab in the Five9 Manager, and you can see your backup jobs. You can see what was wrong with backup jobs, which jobs completed, which did not, and you can control it all from here. A really useful feature for an environment. So yeah, as I mentioned, all the necessary information is now up And this is really neat, and you don't need to go through multiple consoles and navigate and filter the events to see if anything was wrong. You see it all in one console, and there's a summary showing you that your infrastructure is okay, everything's up and running, all the backups are fine, and you're good to go. It's something Simon will show later during the presentation in his demo, but just wanted to go through that. Now, we have a first break in our webinar, and we have a first Q&A session. So if you have any questions at this point, feel free to ask them into questions and answers panel of the GoToWebinar.
And Max, it looks like we do have a couple that have come through here. So the first question I have, this is kind of like a two-part question. So let's say, for example, I buy a 2 terabyte hard drive that's raw through you guys. After you've done the rating and things like that, about how much real usable disk space does that give you from 2 terabytes?
Okay, so typical disk configuration in StarWind's hyper-converged appliance is RAID 10. And if we talk about like the entire node having 2 terabyte raw space, the resulting solution can have up to 3 terabytes of space. So let's say you have 2 nodes, each 2 terabytes, you mirror them, you get 2 terabytes usable. When you add third node, it will remirror the data, and it will be 1/2 of the total cluster capacity. So let's say you have 5 nodes, it is 10 terabytes total, but you have that because of the high availability, and you get 5 terabytes usable capacity.
Great, and I actually think that addressed the second part of the question, which was looking at, extending it to a third node. That's great. The next question that we have here is, what is the list pricing on the base configuration?
The list pricing on the base configuration is not disclosed in our website, and the quickest hint to the list pricing maybe if you go and spec up a similar server at Dell's website, StarWind solution will be more affordable than purchasing a brand new server from a vendor.
And I think to add to that, with the discounts that you guys provide through Veeam and through Five9, the overall package is much more affordable than buying all the separate pieces together. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. And it's not only affordable. The whole idea of StarWind's hyper-converged appliance is to remove the support headache, since StarWind does support the entire architecture, starting from disk and ending with a hypervisor. So by buying everything together, you also get a single support umbrella, or like people tend to joke, a single throat to choke if something goes wrong. So then there is never a finger-pointing situation between vendors. So we try to keep it away from customers and just provide good customer service.
Great, and I really want to emphasize that being a huge advantage, right? Anytime you have a problem, you don't have to think about where is the root cause, which vendor do I speak to. They can always go directly to StarWind, and you'll be able to help them from there. Absolutely,
absolutely. And with StarWind having a 24/7 support package available, that's a no-brainer for me.
Excellent. So the next question that I have here is, can you talk a little bit more about whether you have any type of tiering built in? So for example, is it possible to separate different types of spinning hard disks so that you have your fast HHD disks and then maybe your slower traditional spinning disks as well?
Got it. So indeed, by default, StarWind does SSD caching, which just populates all the hot data in real time to the SSDs and then offloads the cold data to HDDs. That proved to work better than tiering because normally tiering does have effect on the performance of the solution. When you're moving stuff around, it's really affecting the performance. So we decided the caching will work better as it doesn't affect the performance and provides sustained performance under any type of load.
Great. And since you are, of course, running using Windows Server 2012 R2, if a customer did also want to use the built-in storage tiering, I assume that they would have access to that capability as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Great. So the next question that we have here is one around licensing. So this particular user here, they currently have enterprise licenses for all of Windows Server. So the question here is, do they need, if they're purchasing a solution through you and they already have enterprise licenses, do they need to actually acquire additional licenses, or can they use their existing licenses on your hardware?
They don't need an additional license. The idea is StarWind does allow a bring in your own license model. So if you have your existing StarWind or Windows license, you can just add it to the StarWind hyper-converged appliance and continue to use it.
Great. Now I will add on to that though, if you are using 5.9 Manager or Veeam Backup and Recovery, you would still need one of those licenses as well. But StarWind has a very flexible model, so if you already have the Windows license and just need to acquire the Veeam in 5.9, that's certainly an option that we're happy to accommodate you with. The next question that we have here is it possible to use a different type of backup software? Or are we restricted to only using Veeam?
So it is possible to use a different type of backup software if that's necessary, but there will be no integration with that backup software in the management console, so you will have to use a different management console for it. But we do not prohibit using alternative backup solutions.
Great. The next question that we have is about purchasing. Is there a value-added reseller or a distributor that the customer should use, or do they purchase directly through you or through Dell, or how do you recommend a customer goes and acquires the solution?
Depending on where a customer is, there will be different solutions, because in some countries we don't have a VAR yet, or in some countries we prefer to sell direct because it's faster. So ultimately you just need to write a short email to styles@starwind.com, and our representatives will help you to make that decision.
Great. And then another question, is there any type of different pricing for government or, let's say, nonprofit or other types of organizations?
Absolutely. There are different pricing models available, and I guess it drives down to the last answer. Best way to get the information is to contact our sales, and they will provide all the up-to-date information on it.
Great. Lots of good questions coming in here. We're still getting some more. Please keep asking everybody. The next question that we have, so with StarWind's actual vSAN storage management technology, is that running inside a virtual machine, or is that running directly on the hypervisor itself? Where exactly is that software-based business logic running?
So the whole StarWind logic is running in the parent partition, so it's not inside the hypervisor. It's running next to the hard drives and not inside a virtual machine.
Okay, great. And then one follow-up to one of the previous questions that we talked about with the raw drives and the traditional drives. So just a clarification here. So if the user has 3 nodes, each of those nodes has 2 terabytes of raw space, what is the total capacity of usable space? Is that still going to be 3 terabytes?
Okay, so with 2 terabytes...
Node cluster, 2 terabytes raw.
Okay, so with 2 terabytes raw, we anticipate at least 1 terabyte usable. Then when we get all that to usable, we will have 3 terabyte usable space before HA, and then that will half when we do HA. So it will be 1.5 terabyte in HA. And ultimately, if you want to spec out a configuration for your system, the best way to do that would be writing an email to sales or to me, and I will provide you with information on how the solution scales and what will be the additional storage you get with any extra node.
That's great. And it looks like we just had one more come in last minute here. How does StarWind and a scale-out file server work together? I guess both as the backend and then secondarily, is this possible to have it in a multi-site or stretch cluster configuration as well?
It is possible to do a scale-out file server and StarWind deployment together. It won't be a hyper-converged scenario, as scale-out file server does not support local Hyper-V machines on the same nodes. But if you want to build a StarWind solution providing storage, actually something we are going to deliver about next week is StarWind's storage appliance, and it will be able to work in a multi-site scale-out file server cluster. You'll just have to make sure that the latency and the throughput between the sites is adequate.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Max. That was a great set of questions as well from our attendees here. I think that answers them all for now, so we're going to switch gears slightly and talk a little bit more about how we can provide unified management using 5.9.
Yeah, actually, there was one last question.
Now, as we progress, everybody.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, one last question. Okay, we've got to run up. If there is a hardware issue, say a failed drive, do we call Dell or StarWind for support? You call StarWind for support, but you still get the hard drive from Dell. So the SLAs remain the same. You just contact StarWind, and in the meantime, while StarWind is diagnosing the issue and sending a technician to replace a drive, we may also fix some other things for you, like degraded performance because of hard drive failure.
Excellent. All right, Max. Well, I'll take it over from here to talk about 5.9 Manager. Can you see my screen right now?
I can see it. Yeah.
Nice. Excellent. And for all the attendees, please continue to ask questions, whether they're questions for StarWind or questions about how you can get unified management with 5.9. First, just a quick introduction about who we are. We were founded back in 2009, right when Hyper-V was first introduced. And 5.9 has only ever built solutions for Hyper-V. So this means that we have some competitive advantages where we're integrated at a very low level. We work extremely closely with the engineering team. And so that gives us quite a lot of performance optimizations, which no one else in the industry is doing, either for management or for security. Now, we're based in the United States. We now have staff in 25 cities worldwide and have 18 Microsoft MVPs as part of the team. We have about 80,000 total Hyper-V users across all the different products, with the majority using the product that we're going to be discussing today, 5.9 Manager. In addition to 5.9 Manager, though, we have an agentless security solution, which basically means that you can protect your entire virtual infrastructure without ever having to install anything inside a virtual machine. We intercept all of the security packets and network traffic at the host level. Additionally, if you're currently a VMware customer looking to move over to Hyper-V, we offer a completely free VMware to Hyper-V migration tool as well, something you may be interested in checking out. Now, as I mentioned, we are based in Chicago, but we are expanding relatively fast worldwide, with a lot of our focus over the past year being expanding throughout Europe and Southeast Asia, and our big push throughout 2016 is going to be continuing to expand throughout Asia, as well as the Latin America market. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about 5.9 Manager. Now, the whole goal around 5.9 Manager was to provide an easier way to go and manage your Hyper-V infrastructure. For those of you that are using the inbox tools, you've probably found that it could be kind of difficult to learn or understand all of the different places that you have to go and set up a cluster. In some cases, it's 6 different consoles you have to go to get a cluster up and running. So we wanted to make it easier for people to learn Hyper-V, to get familiar with it. And we're actually finding a lot of success with VMware administrators that are using Hyper-V for the first time, because the console actually looks like VMware's vCenter. So it makes that transition easier and makes the evaluation process much smoother if you're looking to move. Now, we've also taken many of the features of System Center Virtual Machine Manager that SMBs want to use. What we found was there's a lot of customers out there that really want to use System Center to have the centralized management, but are unable to because System Center itself can be pretty expensive. It includes a lot of additional components and actually requires dedicated hardware just to go and run the management system. So we try to address all of those problems with having a unified, lightweight management solution for all of your virtualized resources. Now, the first thing that we do, and what all admins should be doing every morning, is going to see a summary view, having a place where they can roll up the information across their entire clusters, hosts, and virtual machines, so they can quickly identify problems and view any types of alerts that have come through all of the different channels. We also provide an easy way to manage your Hyper-V hosts. Now, the actual first implementation of Five9 Manager was a full graphical user interface which ran directly on Windows Server Core and Hyper-V Server. Now, when these versions were first introduced back in the 2008 days, it was really hard to do remote management, so people struggled deploying them. Even though these versions are supposed to have zero graphical user interface, Five9 Manager itself can actually run directly on these boxes, giving you a full GUI so that you can do all of the configurations locally without having to learn PowerShell or go and take any other dependency on other scripting languages. We now have extended that, giving you the ability to do direct management or a lot of remote management, including down-level management all the way back to 2008 R2, which is something that even Hyper-V Manager doesn't support. It's easy to add new hosts through automatic discovery through AD. And once you've gone and configured one of your hosts perfectly, we even give you the ability to clone the settings of that host to all of the other hosts in your environment. And we'll show you that briefly in the demo coming up. Five9 Manager also supports every version of every Hyper-V virtual machine. So it doesn't matter whether you're running Windows, Windows Server, Linux, or Unix. So long as it's a supported distribution, Five9 is going to be able to support it. And that even includes the next versions with Windows Server 2016, along with Nano Server. We've given you basic resource monitoring as well, so that you could take a look at current as well as historical indicators for the CPU, memory, network, and disk I/O, kind of the key indicators about the health of your virtualized environment. And you have the ability to view these at the cluster level, host level, or even down to the virtual machine level, so that you really can go and isolate the root cause of a problem whenever something happens. Now, we also give you the ability to go and view historical data as well. So let's say you come into work on a Monday and something's crashed. Well, it's now easy to just go and take a look at the performance trends over the past several days, and you can see the exact time where that problem occurred. So this is going to save you money just by simplifying the troubleshooting process as well. And in one of our most recent releases, we've even added capacity planning. So this is going to actually show you when you're expected to run out of disk space. And for smaller organizations, this can be important because you want to really try to defer costs for as long as possible, not have to go and spend that extra couple $1,000s on the new rack too soon. And with our capacity planning tools, it can give you great guidance for when you may be running out of disk, CPU, or memory, so that you know in advance when you can call StarWind and order your next array at the appropriate time. We wanted to make management easier as well for people that don't have a full troubleshooting team. So we've integrated all of the different logs for your entire infrastructure all within a single console. So no need to go through these different eventing channels and pull logs from different locations to see the health of your infrastructure. We also realize that for many SMBs, it's not realistic to have somebody sitting in front of the console just watching for problems to happen. So we've integrated email alerts and notifications. Whenever something unusual or unexpected happens in the environment, you could go trigger an email notification. That will go and send you an alert saying, hey, something's crashed, a new VM's failed to deploy, something's replicated or be moved to a different host. So this means that you can now be reactive to the problems as well, saving you time instead of having to log in regularly to go and check the health of the infrastructure. Now, one of my favorite features with Five9 Manager, which unfortunately a lot of people do not get out of the basic Hyper-V product, is the integration of all the different best practice analyzers. Now, there's actually several different best practice analyzers built into Windows Server, but they're hidden in different places, spread out across Server Manager, Hyper-V Manager, different PowerShell commandlets, and Failover Cluster Manager. So we wanted to unify these and put them all into a single console and a single view. so that you can get these best practices to really help you optimize and provide resiliency for your infrastructure. What we recommend to our customers is run this once a week. It's going to give you a report, show you about changes in the environment, and then spend that next week trying to solve each and every one of these. Keep running it again until you start to get a fully optimal Hyper-V environment. This way you're going to have the highest availability for all of your service and the least amount of disruption for any type of downtime. We've also introduced built-in system reports. So this is going to allow you to generate a PDF or an Excel or Word format showing all of the different configuration components in your infrastructure. Now, if you work in any type of industry that requires compliance, documenting the configuration of your infrastructure is a key requirement. So this includes financial, health, legal. All of these organizations that maintain certain sensitive information all have these different compliance and regulatory requirements. But we make it extremely easy to document the health of the environment, to see all the configuration settings, down to the individual variables for every virtual machine, so you can see which of them are prioritized against each other. Let's go ahead and switch over to our demo. We're going to do a quick overview of Five9 Manager and also take a look at the integration points that we have with StarWind and with Veeam. Okay, you now should be able to see my remote desktop connection session. And what we're looking at right now is Five9 Manager's summary view. You can see from the summary view over on the left that we're now at the main data center level. And through here, we can actually navigate through different hierarchies and take a look at the health at the cluster level, at the node level, and even down to the individual virtual machine level. So if you're managing a larger environment, this really makes it easy for you to go filter and navigate north to south based on different settings that are important to you. Now, if we go back to the data center level as well, we see that we have the ability to go and add hosts, add clusters, or even go and create a cluster directly through this by specifying my nodes and running validation tests. So again, we're trying to unify all of these consoles all into one. Now let's go ahead and select at the cluster level here. And we can see that some of my nodes are healthy, some have warnings. But if I want, I have the ability to go and even filter for the different types of errors, alerts, and information, making it easier for me to drive down and find the root cause. Once I actually go down to the node level, I have the ability to connect directly to my nodes via an RDP session, and again, view all of the different states and properties of all of my individual servers which are running here. So I can see the running RAM, the available RAM, and even configuration settings like the operating system. Now, I mentioned one of my favorite features was the ability to go and clone settings. So let's take a quick look at how that works here, as we could go down to our Hyper-V settings. Now, here I could go and configure general settings, such as the locations which I want to store all of my disks. I could even go and configure Hyper-V replication, turn that all on a single location, and configure my entire data center to be replication enabled. But let's go and just do a simple one here, and we can adjust the number of simultaneous live migrations. Now, one of the nice things about Hyper-V is that they don't place limitations on the number of live migrations that you have, so it's relatively flexible. However, one of the best practices for Hyper-V is to always configure your host the exact same way. So same types of networks, same types of live migration settings. And this is for consistency, so that your servers all function the same way. So that your VMs all function the same way, no matter which server they are running on. So in this case, I want to go and change the number of simultaneous live migrations here. Change this to 6, or let's just say to 7. Could apply it to my node, and then I can simply say apply these settings to other hosts. So I'm going to select my 2 other hosts in my cluster, copy my migration settings, click apply, and I've now made that global change to all of my nodes in the cluster. Again, this is going to save you money just by simply avoiding misconfigurations, giving you an easy, centralized way to perform these regular management tasks. Now, let's drill into some of these other tabs a little better. We've already looked at the summary screen. If we take a look at the Hyper-V Manager screen, this will actually allow us to index all of the different virtual machines. So from here, I have traditional controls that you would expect, like column-based filtering. But what I can even do is go and edit the filters that we're showing. So if I want to go and create custom values here, I can actually create very unique filters based on my preferences and based on my needs. If I want to go and edit the settings of a virtual machine, it's just like you would through Hyper-V Manager. You select the virtual machine, you then select the settings, and you're going to have the exact same controls which you would expect through Hyper-V Manager, allowing you to configure everything from memory, memory weight, different drives, and different management settings as well. Now, we can also do the standard operations of starting and shutting down virtual machines, creating checkpoints, exporting them, and even cloning them. So if you want to go and quickly scale up by deploying multiple versions of a web server, you can simply clone that virtual machine as many times as you want. Now we can take a look at the Virtual Network Manager as well. And this is going to go and tell us how to go configure our different networks, and we can even configure different types of extensions as part of these networks. We're going to take a look at the optimizer setting later. That's an advanced feature, and we'll skip over to the monitor. Now within the monitor, you can see that this rich dashboard shows us our current CPU usage, memory usage, disk I/O, and network I/O. And you'll even notice that we've overlaid different trend lines on that as well, which are these green dashes. So we can kind of see where the expected configuration drift and change drift will be. Now we could filter up here by top contributors, by memory, by CPU, and it's going to go and show us which VMs have the highest current usage. We can see the different alarms and filter those. And down here, take a look at historical data. So here's my historical data from the last hour, or maybe even I want to go and bump this to the last week. We'll go and load this, and you can see over the last week I've had spikes on certain days, downtime during the weekend, and then it's the start of the week again, it's certainly spiked it. So this is a good way to kind of really see the live behavioral patterns. We've also included the historical data across your different disks and cluster shared volumes as well. Now, as we take a look at the capacity planning, we could see that we have memory utilization, and this is going down, so I can see that this trend is a good direction. But here's something that's alarming. If I take a look at my disk space on the C drive, I can see that I'm 83% committed, and usage is going up. So this might be an indicator that it's time to call StarWind and go and add another node to my cluster. If I take a look at my system status report, it'll give us an option of which pieces of information we want to query. We'll confirm the settings. The report will take a few seconds to run as it goes and queries the different nodes or virtual machines and renders the data. And then it's just going to give you a nice report that you could go and export or import to different formats. As we take a look here, we'll see that not only do we get the current state, but we really do get detailed information about all of the settings down to the integration services that are available, down to the different virtual machine settings. As I open up my best practice analyzer, it's going to give me a list of available modules that I can run on this host. And if we take a look at the Hyper-V ones, we can see that, hey, we've got some misconfigurations here. So some of these are warning, some of these are informational, but it's still going to tell me that all of these best practices I should follow. And this is a great example here. I have a bad setting here where if my virtual machine management service crashes, it will not automatically restart. That's going to be a problem. So we've gone and tweaked this, or at least I know how to go and fix this so that I can get higher resiliency, so that if this service crashes, it will automatically restart and keep my hosts online. Within the Hyper-V logs, we can quickly drill down and see all different types of information based on time, different filters, severity, across all of the different logs in my environment, even including my cluster logs. Now let's take a quick look here at our plugins from Veeam and StarWind. Now the first one that we're taking a look at here is the Veeam plugin. And we can see that I have a single virtual machine here, which is being protected by Veeam. It's going to tell us the health of the information. It's going to tell us when the last backup happened, how many restore points, and the date as well. Now, if I had any type of problem with any of the backups, this would show up as an alarm. So again, this is a great way to have a centralized view of the health of your backup for all of your virtual machines as well. If we take a look at the jobs, this shows us the different jobs when they should be executed. And we have a context key here as well. So if I want to restart a job or retry a failed job, I have that ability. And then we also keep track of the health of your repositories as well. Everything's looking like it's healthy with plenty of free space. So this is a great way to be able to view all the information that I need from Veeam. Now the StarWind tab gives you even richer information. From here, I see my image files, and I get this live view of the different CPU, memory, and resource allocation across the infrastructure. We even have the ability to go and launch the StarWind console if I want to go through additional configuration or detailed settings. Down here, I get a list of the different alarms and get detailed information about the health of this whole environment. So as you can see here, a very rich console, really trying to unify not just the Hyper-V and cluster management, but also pulling in the industry leads as Veeam for backup and StarWind for storage management. Now let's continue to take a look here at some of the more advanced features. We talked a little bit about cluster management already, but again, we found that most virtual machines are now highly available. So we wanted to make failover clustering a first-class citizen, giving you the ability to create clusters, do health checks, review the cluster health, move cluster nodes, and of course, traditional live migration. Now, Five9 Manager even supports Hyper-V Replica, something which System Center does not support. And Hyper-V Replica gives you the ability to take a virtual hard disk and replicate that to a different location as a disaster recovery solution. All of this is integrated right within the Five9 Manager console. We give you the ability to load balance VMs between different hosts. Within System Center, this is known as dynamic optimization, and we can set different thresholds to actually go and move resources around when they're exceeded. And we'll show this briefly in our next demo. We provide you with a resource and template library. So if you're going to redeploy the same type of virtual machine multiple times, you could basically create a golden copy of it, sysprep it so that all the information is unique, and then go redeploy that as many times as you need, giving you a quick and easy way to scale up while avoiding the chance of misconfiguration if you're manually editing these each time. And for compliance, we've also integrated change tracking and user logging. So anytime a user logs in and makes a change to the environment, or anytime that the system or Five9 Manager makes a change, such as during a load balancing operation, we'll constantly inventory this operation. So you can always go back and figure out who's made what change and when it happened. Let's switch back now and take a look at some of these more advanced features. So over here, we're going to go and take a look at the optimizer. And again, this is going to be the way that we're going to load balance our different resources in the environment. Now, to go and change load balancing, or to go and add a rule, is pretty easy. We just say add. We're going to go and select a name for this setting, so we'll call this our demo. So we're going to add this as part of our existing cluster. And then we're going to take a look at node 2. And based on this, we could set different thresholds. So if my CPU goes above 90%, memory is above 90%, or disk hits 100%, we're going to go and take corrective actions. And in this case, we're going to go and live migrate our virtual machines to a different node in the cluster. So going and setting up this type of load balancing configuration, relatively easy, where we'll constantly monitor the host and do live migrations as necessary. Then within our library, you can see that I can have virtual machine templates. We can store virtual disks that we can edit or change. And we can even install or manage ISOs. And what this is, it's essentially a file share which is connected to Five9 Manager. So anytime we want to redeploy to a host, we just copy that from the file share. Now if I want to go take a look at a template, I can simply select Edit, change the settings, and go deploy a new virtual machine using this template. But not only do we let you create templates from scratch, you can actually take an existing virtual machine which you like, such as my domain controller, and create a template from it as well, even giving you the option to sysprep as part of this operation. So again, giving you this centralized, unified management. And the last but not least feature that people really like here is the ability to go and set an IP address for a virtual machine. So instead of having to log into the VM itself, we can simply set an IP address for this virtual machine directly from the host, really simplifying the management. Now, what I've showed you now is the core Five9 Manager product. However, we do have our advanced version that includes Agentless antivirus. What we've tried to do here is essentially take the logic from our security product that gives you the ability to not have to install agents in every VM and integrated this with Five9 Manager. Now what this means is you have the option of using antivirus from Bitdefender, Kaspersky Lab, or ThreatTrack, and we've basically taken these antivirus engines and optimized them for Hyper-V. So what this means is, as we're actually seeing this network packet go through the Hyper-V host to the virtual switch to the VM itself, we're intercepting the network packet and we're actually inspecting it. We're checking whether it's safe, making sure that it doesn't contain any types of viruses or any other type of malware. And the way we do this is Hyper-V itself has what's known as an extensible switch. So this means that security vendors or network vendors like ourselves, we could go and plug an agent directly into the networking stack that allows us to see all the traffic, just going north and south to say whether it's safe or not, or to say, hey, this has some type of threat, it shouldn't be allowed through. Now, not only do we protect against north and south traffic going from the host to the VMs, but we also protect against east-west traffic, where you actually have data going from one virtual machine to another virtual machine, giving you the ability to really have entire network protection for antivirus. So why would you want to have a solution that does not require agents inside the VM? Well, first, if you have end users that are non-technical, it's much easier to manage it centrally. The user never sees security, they never have to update definitions, they could never disable it, whether that's purposely or accidentally, and so they realistically don't even know that they're being protected. Now, if you have compliance needs as well, this adds a lot of competitive advantage. Since you no longer, as an administrator, need to run a script to install the agent, it gives even more protection for that VM. You could protect everything at the host level, never needing to log in, so you meet increased privacy requirements. You simplify VDI management. You can just manage everything in a single location. Now, what we're essentially doing here is, as this threat comes through, we're mirroring it, we're opening up the network packet, and we're actually doing a scan on the data. And if we detect that there's a threat that's actually within the network packet, we won't let it go through. We'll block it. Or we'll go and alert you and say, hey, this virtual machine's just downloaded a bad file. You need to go and isolate the file. Now, once the virtual machine takes that file, it's still going to write it onto the disk at some point. So one of our big patents is the agentless protection. The second patent that we have pending is to have the industry's fastest antivirus scans. Now, when you do an antivirus scan, it takes up a lot of CPU and memory, known as a scanning store. This means that VMs slow down, and you can have fewer VMs per host. But we've implemented our own patent-pending technology that doesn't require you to scan the entire disk each and every time. All we're going to do is scan the blocks of data that have changed. So instead of scanning 1 terabyte, maybe we only have to scan 1 megabyte or 100 megabytes. And this efficiency in our benchmark tests has gone up to 70 times faster than some competitors. So this means that as an end user, you don't get hit by antivirus scans, so that you can run more virtual machines on each and every host, ultimately saving you money by getting better density. And this has been, again, built exclusively for Hyper-V. It's Microsoft certified, and you get the choice of 3 different antivirus engines. And similar to the support policy which StarWind has here, everything rolls up into a single vendor. We handle all of the licensing with Kaspersky, Bitdefender, and Threat Track on the back end. You just select which works best for you. Here's several resources, but with that, we're going to go ahead and switch over to the Q&A as we wrap up the session. So Max, do we have any interesting questions that have come through?
Indeed, we do have some really good questions coming through. And I guess first and the most interesting question is, what makes Five9 so different from the System Center Virtual Machine Manager?
Good question. We get asked that a lot. Don't you guys kind of do the same thing as System Center? Well, I think first to be distinct, System Center is a great suite of tools. It includes, I think, 8 different products in it now. So the whole System Center suite is very, very broad. And if you're a large enterprise, it probably makes sense for you to go with System Center because it includes a whole variety of tools around automation, service management, cloud connections, things like that. But what we try to do with Five9 Manager is provide a version that's purely around managing the virtualized infrastructure. So a better comparison would be between Five9 and Virtual Machine Manager directly. And essentially, it has the same type of functions. Really, the big differences are that System Center VMM includes some more advanced features like multi-tiered service templates. We only offer a single tier. Extensible integration into other storage management systems. We have to directly integrate with storage management systems, as you've seen with StarWind. But certainly for the SMB, mid-sized customer, we give you essentially the same set of features as System Center, but at 1/10 the price. So if you have issues with the licensing, with the price, or if you don't have dedicated hardware just to run System Center, we're certainly a great option.
Okay, so then there is a second question coming in. Is it possible to easily deploy a templated environment of, let's say, 5 Windows 2008 development servers, standing them up with new names such as like development 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for every new deployed server? Is this possible as a batch or through some automated functionality?
Great question, and this is essentially a question around cloning. How easy is it to do that? So with Five9 Manager, our cloning functionality will allow you to assign unique names to each of the clones as part of the process. So as you're stepping through the wizard and you select the first computer, it will take the clone of that, and then it will go and increment numbers to that as you designate. So you'll get dev1, dev2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So we handle all of that as part of the cloning process, making sure you don't have to log in and then do the extra steps to go and update them and provide unique names for each of them.
Right. Thank you. And okay, so there is one more question. I'm not sure if that is something for Five9 or for StarWind. And question is this: I've got 2 HP P4500 G2 servers. I want to run iSCSI HA. Is it advisable to run Hyper-V host on these units? I guess ultimately it all drills down to the system specifications of these hosts and them meeting the 2012 R2 system requirements. But if you're really interested in doing iSCSI HA, I guess the best idea is to drop a quick email to sales@starwind.com and send them your system specifications. We'll look at them and say if it is okay to run virtualization and iSCSI HA on there.
Yeah, I could touch on that a little bit better from the Microsoft perspective as well. So Microsoft's recommendation is if you have a dedicated Hyper-V host, Microsoft's recommendation for Hyper-V hosts is to keep them dedicated just for virtualization. And the reason why they say that is if you actually have the servers that are supposed to run virtual machines, they probably have a lot of memory. They probably have different types of network connections that you're paying a lot of money for so that they can optimize the virtual machines and then traffic going to them. And so for that reason, they recommend that you don't run other types of cluster roles on the same virtualization hosts. So you wouldn't want to go and run your SQL server, your file server, and even your iSCSI on that, simply because if you think about iSCSI traffic, that's going to go and use up a lot of the network bandwidth, which in theory should be dedicated for the VMs. Now, this is only a best practice or recommendation. Nothing's going to fail. It will be supported. And if you run the cluster validation test, you're going to see a warning that says you're running a different type of role on a Hyper-V host. But again, fully supported, no challenges with that. Just make sure that you have enough available bandwidth so that as you see that iSCSI traffic, and you'll see in traditional virtual machine network traffic, that they don't conflict with each other and starve one of the roles from a different type of role.
Great, thank you, Simon. And here
I think we got one more question.
True.
Yeah, do you mind if we take this last one as well?
Of course. Does 5.9 support Hyper-V network virtualization in Server 2012 R2?
It absolutely does. So Hyper-V Manager is fully supported with the Windows TCP/IP network and stack. So this includes traditional VLAN tagging. This includes NVGRE, Network Virtualization GRE, which is Microsoft Software-Defined Networking, IPv4, IPv6, tunneling, all of those different protocols. What it does not do, though, is actually you cannot directly configure software-defined networking using NVGRE through us. But if you are integrated within a system center environment, we do support it fully integrated. You can, however, go and do traditional virtual network management, such as creating VLAN tagging through 5.9 Manager. So yes, fully integrated, it is supported.
And there is one more question coming through, and it's something I was interested in as well. What are your plans on developing 5.9 Manager for Windows Server 2016?
Great question. Well, we are already working very closely with the engineering team. Everything is fully supported, fully functional on Windows Server 2016. However, we do not make that available in the public build. If you are interested in evaluating Windows Server 2016, including Nano Server, you could contact myself privately and we can give you a private build. And we've really tried to actually invest a lot of time specifically looking at Nano Server, which is one of the new installation options in 2016. It's almost like a mini version of Server Core, where it's really stripped down the operating system even further. So we're very excited about Windows Server 2016. I think it's going to have huge adoption, and 5.9 Manager is 100% going to be available to support it at launch.
Okay, so I guess at this point we are running a little bit past the hour, so I think it's a good idea to wrap up the event. And I would like to thank everyone for attending us today. I hope this was interesting for you, and should you have any questions, you've got our contact details. Simon's contact details are on the screen. StarWind contact details, as I mentioned previously, are sales@starwind.com. And if you have any personal questions to me, I'm available at max@starwind.com. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.